Can I use this one? Okay, cool. I brought a data set with me, open data today, that I made this week. I visited 2 years ago for the JSDC conference, and it was my first time in Taipei, and I love cats, so I wanted to make a cat. Okay, cool. I wanted to make a cat data set. Hello, there we go. So I went to some cat cafes last time, but then I found out there were a lot of cat cafes I did not know about. And so I bought all the books I could find on cat cafes, and they were all in Chinese, so I had to translate them. But I assembled this data set of, it's GeoJSON, so I'm offering it up as a data set if someone wants to make it into an offline app or a mobile app or a printing poster or something like that. It's just a GeoJSON of all the cats and their Facebook pages, or Foursquare if I can find the Facebook. And there's a lot of cat cafes. And I've been to about 10 of them, but I am trying to go to as many as I can over here. So the reason I like cats is that I have a project at home called the Cat Mapper that started as a data set of all the cat locations that I could find. But then it turned into a photography art project, so now I just take beautiful pictures of cats in my hometown of Portland, Oregon. So I have a website where I just post cat pictures of all the funny cats that I see. And since I've been here, I've seen some cool cats. Yesterday I saw someone walking their cat on a leash like a dog. And the cat seemed to like it, which was weird. I also saw somebody walking their cat on a leash inside of a cart. And then she actually found me on Instagram and gave me the life story of her cat. And it's a very touching, loving story of this cat. And I've been using this hashtag, I don't know if you can see it, Taiwan #1, because Taiwan is a nation of cat lovers, and it's great. So that graph with me in the center, I think the reason, I have no idea how I'm in the center of that, but the reason is that I used to be a Code for America, I'll just put a cat up here. I used to be the original Code for America fellowship was in 2011, and I was the first class of fellows. And they encouraged everybody to put their code online and to share open data and to start projects, put them up on GitHub, and if you do a project for one place, usually someone else somewhere else has the same problem and they can reuse your code. So that's the whole idea of civic tech and open source. So Code for America understood that from the beginning. And there weren't that many people doing civic tech and open source. There was obviously, in that graph, you had the Open Knowledge Foundation, which was in the UK, and then there was GovZero and Code for America. So I think I worked a lot with people online, and I ended up collaborating with people here and with people in the UK, so somehow I ended up, I have a lot of GitHub repositories, so I ended up having a lot of connections. But the project that I originally started was I was putting data online from US cities, trying to open up their data sets so people could have access to the data and make applications. And through Code for America, they received a lot of grants to pay for the operations. So in the United States, we have all these rich billionaires like Bill Gates or Phil Knight from Nike Shoes. He's from my town. The billionaires pay for all of the innovation. And then sometimes you can get government grants, but they're very difficult. But if you can get a private grant from a foundation, they're sometimes easier. And Code for America was funded by a lot of these foundations, and once you start to meet the people from the foundations, they're always looking to give away their money. And so I learned the names of the people that write the grants, and then I said, hey, there's no version control tool for data sets. People aren't having any easy way of getting the data from open government APIs. There's a lot of, you have to write this much code to get a data set a lot of times, but in software you can type npm install, or pip install, or gem install, and it does everything for you. You just have to type one command. And I said, why isn't there a package manager for datasets? And they said, well, here's some prototype money. Go and see what happens if you spend 6 months building it. And I thought that was really cool because they let me do it open source, and they gave me 6 months to take my idea to something real. And that turned into this project that's called DAT. Since 2013, when we got the first, I was also the first night prototype winner, we have got a grant from the Sloan Foundation, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation in the United States, and they support science access to data. So Sloan wants to make it so that any science that's published online is archived forever, including all of the data that was attached to the science. So if you go into a paper and you click a link to download data from a scientific experiment and you get a 404, then that's bad for research. So they want to, it's called scientific reproducibility, the idea of having all the science saved forever in archives. So we found out that our data sharing tool that we were working on for government was also a problem in science, and there were additional grants available in the scientific community. So since 2013, we've got 3 grants, one from Knight, one from Sloan, and then we just got a new one from Knight again. They funded us again, and to build a dataset package manager. And so it went from just me to me plus 2 other people. We had a team of 3 people, and now we have a team of 8 people that is 100% open source. And I even was able to get CL to contract on some open source stuff for us. But we have a really cool team that's remote, and it's all grant funded and open source. And we're trying to come up with a model for funding open source projects that are working with public institutions, governments, and universities that's sustainable. So we can pay people to work. You don't have to work for free, but we can also keep the project going on. So that's one thing I've been trying to learn is how to create a sustainable team and fund open source projects for long periods of time to do big, ambitious projects. The thing that we work on, I'm going to switch to this mic now, is a package manager for data sets, or sort of a version control tool. And so, oh yeah, my cat. So I have this folder of cat photos, and it has an index.html page that says hi, and I can share that with the DAT tool, and I get this code I can share. And so one person in the community built an entire browser. This browser is called Beaker Browser, and it's all built on Electron. I've worked a lot on the Electron project for the last 2 years since it started, and this guy named Paul Frazee, he used DAT and Electron to build a peer-to-peer browser. So this entire thing is all built in Electron, and it has HTTP, obviously, so you can go to any HTTP site. But it also, I guess maybe I'm probably on the captive portal on the website. But I can also go to DAT link. And this browser speaks the DAT protocol, so this is a version-controlled web page, and it's served peer-to-peer. And you can read more about how DAT works, but this browser has DAT built in. So on a normal page that's HTTP, it just looks like this, but on a DAT page, you get this little link up here that lets you browse the archive, the DAT archive. And so your browser can actually take a copy, almost like a BitTorrent client, have a copy of all the page contents and install it, and sync it peer-to-peer with everybody else that's browsing it. And so we're hoping that we can build more tools like this on top of DAT that let people move large data sets around online. So we're trying to get scientists to use this to manage the sharing of their data, because we work with a lot of scientists that have these huge data sets and they don't want to pay for a lot of storage on a Google account because they're at a university, and the university they don't have to pay for. So we'd like them to be able to turn their university bandwidth into hosting for large scientific data sets. You can also import folders and share them. So I have I can import a data set here, and you get a nice little tour. So it's an open source browser and an open source data sharing protocol. And we're also working on a dataset package manager where we'll be able to publish datasets. And so all this stuff is funded from these grants. It started off as prototypes, and we've been turning them into real products and trying to do really ambitious community projects. So you can check out the Beaker browser, or you can check out the DAT webpage to read about DAT. But I would just want to say, as my last thing, that if you have a cool idea, you should write a grant for it. It's a good exercise because it forces you to try to explain your idea. And even if you fail, just keep trying and trying again. I failed a lot on writing these grants, but eventually I got one, and that turned into another one, and that turned into another one. So just keep trying until you get the first one, even if it's a small grant, because it's a really cool way to fund open source projects. Thank you. Oh yeah, last thing, fork my cat cafe thing on GitHub and add any that I missed. It's open data.
It's a gist. It's not a real repo.
Yeah, you can still fork it.
好，我们的短讲到今天到这边就结束了。那接下来就是请大家专心的去贡献，然后5点的时候，接下来我们有成果发表，到时候请大家做完东西赶快贴上成果发表，谢谢。点心来了。哦，点心来了。